Well, we are going to read Psalm 150 as an introduction.
Praise the Lord. Praise God in His sanctuary. Praise Him in His mighty firmament. Praise Him for His mighty deeds. Praise Him according to His surpassing greatness. Praise Him with trumpet sound. Praise Him with lute and harp. Praise Him with tambourine and dance. Praise Him with strings and pipes. Praise Him with clanging cymbals. Praise Him with loud crashing cymbals. Let everything that breathes praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Abby. Our New Testament lesson is the story of the prodigal son, or is part of the story of the prodigal son. Now, most of us, of course, know the story of the prodigal son. It's pretty well known. It's the story of a rude young man who approaches his father and asks for his inheritance before his father has passed away. The father surprisingly agrees to this, and so the son runs off to, quote-unquote, a far country and blows his inheritance on loose living. Broke and friendless, he is so desperate that he takes a job feeding pigs, a job that no self-respecting Jewish person would ever accept. But he's desperate. But eventually, the young man comes to his senses, and he trudges back home with his tail tucked between his legs, ready to make a long and drawn-out and a heartfelt apology to his father. And, of course, all of us are waiting for the whooping, or at least the very serious, stern lecture that the father is going to give this young man for all of his foolish ways. But again, in a surprising turn in this story, the father gives the son his best robe, puts a ring on his finger, and fires up the barbecue, kills the fatted calf, and throws this ginormous party complete with music and dancing. It's wild. It's crazy. And that's the story of the prodigal son, right? What a foolish son. And what an awesome father, right? But less well known and perhaps a bit more perplexing to us is the story of the prodigal brother. The one who stayed home, the one who stayed behind and didn't go off into the far country with loose living. It comes right on the heels of the story of the younger brother, and it can be found in Luke 15, 25 through 32. Here's how it goes. Now the elder son was in the field, and when he came and he approached the house, he heard the music and the dancing. And he called one of the slaves and he asked what was going on. And he replied, well, your brother has come and your father has killed the fatted calf because he got him back safe and sound. Then the older brother became angry and he refused to go in. And so his father came out and began to plead with him. But he answered his father saying, listen, all of these years I've been working like a slave for you, and I've never disobeyed your command, yet you've never given me even a young goat, so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours comes back with prostitutes, after wasting his money on prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him. And then the father said to the son, son, you're always with me, and all that I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead, and celebration. What's up with that, right? Well, maybe he didn't want to come because he wasn't much of a dancer. I mean, lots of us guys can probably relate to that, can't we? I mean, every once in a while, Rebecca will get me out on the dance floor, but it is few and far between. I am just not much of a dancer. You mentioned dancing, and suddenly I have a flashback to 7th grade cotillion. Any of you ever have to go suffer through cotillion? Anybody out there? Am I the only one who had to endure this torturous adolescent pool of dancing and stuff like that? Well, I was forced to go to cotillion, and you mentioned dancing, and suddenly I'm that nervous 7th grader who, I don't know whether I actually was the last one who was picked for dancing, but I felt like I was the last one that was picked for dancing. I'm just too self-conscious. It was terrible. Who knows? Maybe the older son had to go to the Jewish equivalent of cotillion. And maybe he had a similar experience as I did. But I doubt it. Or maybe the older son didn't come to the party because he was one of those religious people who disapproves of dancing. You remember the movie Footloose, don't you? Right? Yeah? Yes. Who can forget all of those religious killjoys who disapproved of dancing, especially dancing by teenagers? Some people, just the thought of teens gyrating their hips sends them into cardiac arrest. Maybe that's what he was like. There are still people like that in the church today. You may be surprised to know, for instance, that St. Paul actually came into existence because of a bunch of religious killjoys. Did you know that this is true? It's true. It's true. You see, in 1959, there was only one church in Johnston, Iowa, and Grant and Margaret Voorhees were the youth group sponsors for that congregation. And the kids wanted to have a dance. And so Grant and Margaret went to the pastor thinking this won't be a big problem. And they said, can we have a dance here? And the pastor said, absolutely, positively, there will be no dancing in this church. And so Grant and Margaret Voorhees made it their personal mission to begin a new congregation where children and teens could dance. And that, dear friends, is the scandalous beginnings of St. True story, ask Jean, right, Jean? True story.
She has said it's true.
Maybe the older son was one of these religious killjoys. And that's why he wouldn't come to the dance. Maybe, but I doubt it. Because as Abby read in Psalm 150, it seems that dancing was at least an accepted, if not an important part of Jewish worship. So, no, I don't think that's it. So if the older son wouldn't come to the dance because he wasn't a good dancer, and if he wouldn't come to the dance because he disapproved of dancing, well then, what is it that kept this guy from coming to the party? The real tip-off is right there in verse 29, when he complains to his father, saying, listen, for all of these years, I've been slaving for you, and I've never disobeyed your command, yet you've never given me even a goat that I might go and have a party with my friends. See, that's it right there. That's it right there. You see, the older son refuses to come to the party because to him, being in his father's family was all about slaving away. He was a slave in his father's household in his own mind. It was all about duty and drudgery to him, responsibility and hard work. Besides, said the son, if I were to celebrate, it wouldn't be with you, Dad. It would be with my friends, which you aren't. How sad is that? Because the same Father that welcomed the prodigal son with such joy wants to embrace the prodigal brother just as badly. Note that the father leaves the party and comes out and pleads with the older son just as he had come out to meet the younger son. And the father pleads with him to come to the party. Son, you're always with me, and all that I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours, notice the correction, not this brother of yours, he's your brother, okay? Because this brother of yours was lost, but he was found, now is found, he was dead, and now he is alive. Note the word choice. The Father says that they, quote, just had to celebrate and rejoice. Healthy churches feel the same way. They just have to choose fun and joy over drudgery. That's what worship is all about. Worship is the place where we, with the triune God, are compelled to celebrate and to rejoice, as our children's sermon, by the way, so marvelously illustrated today. Because worship is where we meet Jesus Christ, who is, as the old hymn goes, the Lord of the dance. To know Jesus and to be filled with his love is to be free from this rigid self-preoccupation and joylessness. It is to be free to laugh, or to smile, or to give your neighbor a hug, or to clap, or to say amen, or to raise your hands in worship. I know Presbyterians suffer from locked armpit syndrome, I know, but it's okay. You don't have to. You could, if you wanted to, raise your hands once in a while, or maybe you could even dance a little, or shuffle, or at least tap your foot to some of the music in church. You can do that. It's okay. God frees us to do those things. In worship, we just have to rejoice. Christianity is an exuberant faith, and the Bible is a joyful book. Did you know that the word joy occurs 150 times in the English Bible? The Bible is just full of joy. Rejoice in the Lord always, says Paul, miraculously from his prison cell in Philippi. Again, he says, I say to you, rejoice. Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is our strength. God's joy, the joy within the triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This love and this joy that we enter into in worship is our strength. It's what carries us through the week and the day. It keeps us going. And the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, and so on and so forth, right? Number 2 in the list after love, the second greatest characteristic that we ought to experience because the Holy Spirit dwells within us is joy. God is a God of joy. She's an exuberant dancer, and she wants us to come to the dance. But like the older brother, we sometimes have a hard time seeing it, don't we? Even though we live in the Father's house, we too have in fact been off to a far country. Emotionally, spiritually, we're off in a far country, even if physically we aren't. Just as much as the rebellious younger son. Oh, of course, most of the time, this dire situation is nobody's fault but the church. Too many of us, I know, have grown up with pastors or nuns or Sunday school teachers who taught on hell like they were born and raised there, right? No wonder the idea of a joyful God is so hard for some of us to get our heads around, to really experience. Others of us grew up with preachers who taught as though Christianity was nothing but a set of rules and regulations to be sternly adhered to. Maybe you can relate to the tribe of a fierce, the leader of a fierce African tribe who was visited once by a Christian missionary. The chief was very old at this point in his life, and the missionary was leaning hard on all of the don'ts of the Bible. After listening, the chief finally said, I'm not sure if I understand. Help me get this straight. You tell me that I must not take my neighbor's wife. Exactly, said the Christian missionary. Don't do that. Okay. Nor may I take his ivory or his oxen. Exactly, replied the missionary. Don't do that. And I must not dance the war dance and then ambush my neighbor. Absolutely not, replied the Christian missionary. Don't do that. But I, said the chief, I am unable to do any of these things, for I am an old man. To be old and to be a Christian, they must be the same thing. Too often true. And quite honestly, children and youth pick up on that. They get it. They get it. But we can choose joy over drudgery. We weren't baptized in pickle juice, dear friends. We were not baptized in pickle juice. We were baptized into Jesus Christ, the Lord of the dance. We can choose joy and worship in all of our activities. In fact, what if we live with such joy, with such happiness here, that St. Paul was known as the fun church, or the happy church, or the joyful church in Johnston? What would it take for us to get that reputation, to earn that reputation in our community, with our friends? What would it take for us to earn that reputation where we're the fun church? When we gather on February 24th after worship, and by the way, I really hope you have put that on your day timer, okay? February 24th after worship. It is a historic, significant day in the life of St. Paul Presbyterian Church. It really is going to be important. And if you're not going to be here, your voice won't be heard about the future of St. Paul, okay? You can't be here, by the way, because you're going to be traveling. Write out your comments. We're going to give you the questions in advance. We'll brainstorm on. But I want you, when we gather on February 24th, I want you to think about what fun, joyful things God might just be calling St. Paul Presbyterian Church to do. We need to do fun things here. We need to do fun things like the all-church game night that we had on Friday. What a blast! I mean, we pushed little kids around on scooters until they were, blue in the face, and we were blue in the face too. We batted the ball around in pickleball and had a blast. We sampled delicious smoothies. Mango was my own personal favorite. Thank you to Shelley Drudgery and Mike. And then we played the game Headbands. Any of you know the game Headbands? Everybody gets this card, and they stick it on a thing around their head, and you have to guess who you are. Rebecca's thing said strip club. She had to guess that she was in a strip club. Aaron Newton was New Beach. That was fun. That was fun watching those guys try to ask questions about that. Or here's another crazy idea. This is a crazy Jerry Foley idea, okay? Jerry Foley comes up with all sorts of crazy, joyful kingdom ideas. That's why we keep him on sessions, because he comes up with these wacky things. And every once in a while, some of them are just really brilliant. They're really, really, really smart, okay? So here's Jerry's idea. What if we built an outdoor pavilion in the back 40? You know that lot that we have in the back? Nothing's going on there. Maybe 2-3 times a year we play football with the kids in it, something like that. What if we instead built an outdoor pavilion where we could host summer concerts for all of our apartment-dwelling neighbors? They couldn't help but hear it, right? Right? We you know, with their blankets out on a cool summer evening in the shade of those beautiful trees in the back there. And then Jerry's other crazy idea is, what if we built a brick pizza oven back there? And we serve pizzas to neighbors. Maybe they bring their own, maybe we just serve pizzas. You know, really, I mean, top-notch, high-quality pizzas, and we have jazz bands, or we have rock bands, or we have all sorts of whatever we want to have out there. I don't know. Maybe that's all just too far out. Maybe it is. But maybe it isn't. You're right. Maybe that's just the kind of wacky, crazy, joyful thing that Jesus would do. Maybe it is. Maybe that should be part of our division. You see, friends, life is just this miracle of grace. It's this vibrant, pulsating montage of motion and sound, but it's up to us to interpret that motion and that sound. Life is really what we make of it. Will we interpret the motion as an upsetting, destabilizing nuisance when we want to be left alone? Or will we interpret it as a dance? The dance of life. The dance of childhood. The dance of maturity. The dance of family. The dance of worship. The dance of church. Work can be a dance too. And the choice, it's really ours. It's really ours, just as it was the elder sons. The interesting thing is that the story doesn't really tell us how he chose at the end, does it? Did he get over himself and did he heed his father's invitation to come to the party? Maybe he did. Or did he turn back on his father and remain stuck in his self-righteous resentment? We don't know, do we? It's a cliffhanger, like a lot of good stories. It's a cliffhanger. And you and I, our lives, they're a cliffhanger too. The world waits with eager expectation to see how we will choose. Will we decline God's gracious invitation? Or will we kick up our heels and dance like nobody's watching? How will we choose? That's right. Gracious God, we know that there are things in life that make us sad. And there are things that are hard in life. But there's also, God, so much beauty around us. The white snow surrounding us, the breath that almost freezes and is going to freeze this coming week. The beauty of children, of age, the joy that is around every bend for us. There's rumors of glory all around us, Lord. Open our eyes, open our hearts. Help us to recover that childlike exuberance that we saw our kids model for us today. Jesus took a little one and he put them in the midst and he said, "Truly I say unto you, if you want to enter into the kingdom of God, you must become like one of these little ones." Forgive us, God, when we hear the music, we see the dancing, and we say, "No thanks." Heal us, restore us, and set us free to come to the party. And all of God's people said together, we're going to stand, we're going to sing.